Okay. Hi, my name is Katrina Buchel. I live in Merced County. I take care of my brother. He's 57 years old. He's the number 6 kid. I'm number 9. We used to fight back and forth. When our mom died, I promised her, we all did, would not put my brother in a home. He cannot talk. He don't know right from wrong. He was wanting to come today, but he couldn't. And he got upset about that. But our landlord, we live next to our landlords, and he's cool about that after that, when he found out one was off. He knows what he kind of understands a little bit what's going on with all this. He goes like this, that he'll shoot himself or something. He will kill himself, and he'll go to heaven with our mom and dad. I don't want to put him in a home, and it's not going to happen. If anybody has a heart, please don't. Do the right thing, please.
Thank you for your testimony. We'll keep working across this way, and then we'll come back to the end here. Thank you.
My name is Robert Copeland. I've spoke before, but Jerry Brown needs to understand these cuts are going to hurt a lot of people that really need the IHSS workers, and it's not going to save that much money. Because how many people are going to go to nursing home, get food stamps, that actually are working now? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. Yes, sir. You're next.
Good afternoon. My name is Gerald Parkinson, and I live in Orange County. My son has a brain injury. He suffered it in 1985. As a result of that, he can't do anything purposeful with his limbs. He can move but not do anything purposeful. He's in bed or in a wheelchair. And all this time, we've taken care of him at home with the same caregiver. When my wife died, his mother died in 1998, the caregiver became mother and caregiver as well. I suppose the best presentation I heard covering my views was by the lady from UDW, so I don't need to repeat all that. Basically, I'm in favor of implementing the time and a half, excuse me. I am, and rescission of the 7% cut. For us, it would not be practical at all to have a second caregiver. The lady that takes care of him, all these years, she knows him well, she understands him, he feels comfortable with her. She does everything, including paramedic work, like changing catheters, she can do that. Wouldn't be practical for us to get a second caregiver in to fill in the extra hours. Person would not have the right training or the knowledge of his situation, and he would be very sensitive to that, as we would. And as for the implementation of Governor Brown's cap, and I did my own simple analysis on a case of somebody working 200 hours a month at $10 an hour, they would be getting $2,000. If they got the overtime pay as well, that would raise their wages to $2,200. That's not very much. Then you look at the 7% that they've lost last year's decision, it just doesn't make sense to me. Well, thank you.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Tony Anderson. I'm the director of the ARC of California. Also here today representing the Lanterman Coalition, which is 17 of the state's major developmental disabilities associations and groups. And I'm here to tell you we are strongly opposing the 7% cut and the caps in particular. And all of our reasons have been stated today. A couple of things, though, that I would want to quickly say is that you have heard the fear in our community, especially from the parents. And it's not just an individual having a bad experience, but it's systemic. It's a systemic problem throughout our state and our nation. And people with developmental disabilities are victims of crime and abuse at rates of about 10 times higher than the general public. And it's something that all of our families deal with. They know about it. If they haven't experienced it, it's in their psyche. It's in their thinking of what they have to worry about. And it's a huge concern throughout our community. And so obviously hiring a pool of workers is a very long, delicate process requiring tremendous trust and testing of one another. And it's just not something where we can just go and get a big, huge pool. The other piece I want to mention is that the workers in the in-home support services for all the different groups that are served in the Department of Developmental Services, about 20% of that entire population is supported in the in-home support services program. It's still a smaller portion, but the point is that there's unique needs in the developmental disabilities community for people with autism or people with intellectual disabilities or Down syndrome. There's different needs for the different folks. And then all of the other groups that are served in the in-home support services, there are different unique skill sets. And we don't just hire for the whole group of recipients. We have to look at the special needs for each of the groups. So that's just to say that, again, strong opposition to the cuts and the caps that are proposed by the governor, and hope and urge your advocacy for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yes. Hello, my name is Hannah Jocarpolo. I'm an IHSS worker. I have been since 1981. And I'm a member of ULTCW as well as a member of QUIDA, which is Communities United in Defense of Olmsted. Olmsted, as you know, is a Supreme Court decision, part of the ADA, that says that people with disabilities need to have the option and the availability of community-based services. These caps and these cuts fly in the face of that decision. And I just don't see how, besides all the compelling stories that you've heard today that put the human face to it, legally, I don't understand how these can go through. It's just wrong. It's wrong on a moral level. It's wrong on a legal level. And I urge you to convince the governor of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our last speaker.
Hi there. First of all, I get invited today to hear this, and I got touched from the stories. And I can feel the people who provide care for the disabled person. It's not only for the money they do, but do they have compassion for the people? They want to give them a better life? That's my feelings. I will ask you as a regular person, when is the time to make the right answer for this? Please do not cut their hours. Not only the people who make money, who makes a living out of the job needed, but the people with disabilities. They're so used to these people already. They will get affected psychologically. So I'm asking you as a regular person to please do not cut. Make the right decision when the time to make the decision comes. Please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone for your testimony today. We very much appreciate you all being here. People from the department are still here, I believe. I think there might be one more item on the agenda. And I'd also like to welcome you back in the event you have any comments you'd like to make. Have we completed the CMIPS presentation? I don't think so. So would you like to make comments first, and then any response you'd like to make, and then we can go to the case management presentation?
I'll keep my response very brief, Madam Chair, and then I'll turn it over to Eileen Carroll to talk about the final agenda item. I think Director Lightbourne, in his opening comments, kind of framed the issue for us. This is not something that we felt we chose to do. In fact, since March of 2012, we weighed in formally with the feds on this particular issue and these proposed rules as they had, and we weighed in subsequently several times, laying out exactly many of the concerns that you're hearing today from the audience. We hear those concerns, we take them seriously. This is not something that we felt we wanted to do. The cost of paying overtime is a budget choice, as is any budget proposal. You could spend money restoring 7%, you could pay overtime, you could do both. The options are fiscal there, and they have very human consequences, and we are well aware of that as an administration. So, we took the comments today to heart again. We're happy to answer questions. We look forward to working to solutions on some of those issues where they can be found. It's complicated. We have federal labor regulations in front of us that we have to comply with. There are good things in them. I'd like to correct on the record one misunderstanding. Travel time between recipients for a provider who works for multiple recipients is something that would now be compensated. That's a good thing for providers. The governor's budget fully funds that to the extent that we have adequate information to budget it appropriately. With respect to waiting time at doctor's appointments, the program has always funded accompaniment to those appointments, but not paid for the provider during the time spent waiting at the doctor's office for the recipient. Again, the budget funds those hours, and we have always said since our opening budget release in our stakeholder calls that we would like to work with our stakeholders to talk about the most appropriate way to adjust recipient hours to account for that brand new service in the program. We think that's a valuable, important consumer protection, and it's not going to be something subtracted from existing authorized hours. At least that was not our vision for that, okay. So I want to say that on the record.
So the waiting time hours will not be part of the 40 hours?
That's a different thing. Wait time is funded in the budget to compensate the provider, and it's not our envision that that new service of having somebody wait for you at the doctor's office or sit in the waiting room with you at the doctor's office would negatively impact a recipient. For example, if a recipient has 100 authorized hours in a month, whatever their wait time would be associated with that would increase their authorized hours so that when they're not losing services or having to make other difficult choices within an authorized services cap. That doesn't, however, alter our proposal that providers be limited to 40 hours a week to avoid our third-party liability under the federal regulations. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Yeah. Oh. I didn't like the answer, but Senator Monning.
Thank you. So the LAO raised 4 proposed modifications for consideration, and I don't know if you're prepared to respond to those today, but I think they attempt to address some of the most critical concerns that we heard from the public testimony. One proposal was where an existing provider where there's no available backup. They propose certain areas for exemption or exception. Are you considering those proposed modifications?
Yeah. As I said a moment ago, there's a variety of fiscal options. Here we were driven, I think, in the development of our proposal to put a hard cap on the ability to pay overtime. We understand and struggle with the health and safety implications of that today. It's not dissimilar from some situations which may exist in the program today when the provider currently is unavailable, and somebody must find a way to have their needs met in the program. We understand this imposes our proposal, as it's currently constructed, proposes an additional burden in that regard, and we acknowledge that. Whether the administration and the legislature and stakeholders would come to some agreement on what an appropriate either targeted exemption or a dedicated allotment of overtime hours across a year, or some way to authorize overtime if a provider is unavailable, that's a budget discussion we're open to having.
Thank you, and I would encourage our continued dialogue on some of those proposed modifications. Also, one of the witnesses testified that there was language in the trailer bill that would insulate companies from liability for negligence or harm caused by their employees. Are you familiar with that language? I don't have it in front of me, so I don't.
Yeah. So if I may, just for background, currently today there are statutory provisions that indemnify counties and public authorities from the negligent or intentional tort acts of a provider referred to a recipient from a registry. In the construction of the backup system, as we envisioned it, the trailer bill authorizes a county to either operate that backup system on its own or contract for that service. As we drafted the trailer bill language, we envisioned that contracting would be more like a call center dispatch service, as opposed to a private entity with private employees providing that backup service. So a private firm should always be responsible for the actions of its employees. It's different if they're simply referring people who have been cleared through the IHSS background process. So what was brought to our attention was a potential let me untie my tongue, sorry. A potential interpretation of our trailer bill that we did not intend. It's not our intention, and we would be happy to work with folks to address that concern.
Great. It seems like based on your further description of that, it does lend itself to further clarification, so we'll look forward to seeing that. Thanks.
And I would just add to my colleagues' comments that I think we have a lot of work to do, a lot of discussion. You know, obviously today's testimony highlighted a lot of the, there's some impracticalities in the proposal that I would like to see addressed as well. And look forward to working with you and talking through all of these issues. Thank you. All right, we have one last item on the agenda, and that is the CMIPS. Eileen Carroll's going to present.
Actually, no.
That's what it says right here.
Madam Chair, Senator Monning, I'm Shel Culp, the Chief Deputy Director of the Office of Systems Integration, and we're here to provide you a little more information about our budget change proposal. I also wanted to offer, I know Senator Monning knows a lot about the Office of Systems Integration. I wanted to offer a brief overview of what the office does.
Thank you.
That's agreeable?
Yes, absolutely.
The office was created in 2005 to manage a portfolio of large, complex health and human services information technology projects. We provide project management, oversight, procurement, and support services for a $1 billion portfolio of high criticality projects. I got Pete's tongue tie over here. We manage the procurement, the contract negotiations, and contract management aspects of the acquisition of technology systems, which is often a very lengthy period. Hopefully we're going to see some reforms on that soon. In this capacity, OSI coordinates communication, collaboration, decision-making among project stakeholders and program sponsors for all of the projects. And then after the procurement phase, OSI often handles the maintenance and operations of those systems indefinitely. Since its inception, OSI has developed a track record of successfully managing and deploying large, complex, mission-critical systems to support health and human services programs at the state and federal and local level. And with that, I will turn it over to the project director, John Logan, to talk about our proposal.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. My name is John Logan. I'm the project director for the CMS2 project, working for OSI and in partnership with my program sponsors and customers at CDSS. We have developed and implemented the Case Management Information Payrolling System 2, which replaced a 25-year-old legacy system. We achieved production status on that in November of 2013. We're currently payrolling 1 million paychecks a month with an annual payroll of approximately $4.5 billion with that system. As we went into production with that system, we entered the phase that Shell referred to as known as the maintenance and operations phase, as we've completed the design, development, and implementation. Our budget request that is before you is related to aligning our services and aligning our abilities to the maintenance and operation phase of the project. And so what we are bringing is a net decrease in the OSI spending authority of $33.7 million in the budget year, and a proposal to allow for 10 new permanent state staff to match up to a corresponding decrease in our consulting dollars, so that we can begin to rely more on state staff and less on consultants as we achieve knowledge transfer and bring about state staff to support the system. Corresponding to that, our partners at CDSS have, in their corresponding budget change proposal, requested for 6 positions to support this system at the state level as they utilize these people to manage the data and reporting, program changes, system enhancements, and a variety of other factors that I'm sure that Eileen will share some background on that as we go forward. So our BCPs are paired together in regard to achieving maintenance and operations status on the CMS2 system.
Madam Chair, Eileen Carroll with the Department of Social Services. I almost got through this entire hearing not having to actually testify. Building on what John Logan has just said is our BCP is noted in the committee's agenda, and it's very well defined there, requests 6 permanent positions to ensure that CDSS can perform the functions that are going to be needed, since we are now moving in as the lead for the maintenance and operation phase of the project. And again, as John just mentioned, these positions are tied to the overall reduction in the local assistance costs relating to moving into the M&O phase. Briefly, our staff provide all the research, analysis, data extraction, all the support to the counties, the recipients, and the providers to do payroll activities as well as eligibility and case management activities. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Just one moment, please. Just want to make sure that we answered everything. All right. So does the proposal address the adjustments that would be required to implement the FLSA overtime regulations?
Not at this time. It reflects only our move into the maintenance and operation phase. Partially, we do not have a full analysis on what overtime is going to look like and all the activities related to FLSA.
Would they be? Okay. But, so will that analysis be part of this or the FSLA proposal?
So the request that you have here in your agenda today is a Jan 10 proposal that does not address at all the FLSA requirements. This is purely an approved project going into maintenance and operations phase and the ongoing workload associated with properly processing payroll. FLSA considerations are not here. We're still working with stakeholders, and we have this Friday, tomorrow.
Oh,
The
no,
21st, next Friday. The 21st is our second meeting with stakeholders to talk in more detail about the implementation aspects of the things that we can currently agree on and move forward. But in order for us to tell you how many resources we need to implement something, we need to better define what it is that we're implementing. So we don't have a resource request before you at this time for the FLSA proposal on the state operations side for state staff.
Okay, so it won't be part of this case management information technology proposal. It'll be going forward as a part of the FLSA.
So the request, let me try to say it a different way. The request in front of you today is to keep the system up and running and get payroll processed. Any FLSA components would be part of a future proposal and negotiation.
And it'll be part of the FLSA overall, not part of your information management proposal? Yeah, that was my question.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, misunderstood.
No, I didn't state it very clearly. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, if I could, Brandon Nunes, Department of Finance, too.
Yes,
and
please.
The FLSA premise that we've been talking about today does have a component to CMIPS in it of about $7.5 million, so there's kind of a placeholder to have those discussions. That may be where some of the discussions about whether or not there's funding in there for CMIPS. So we do kind of have this $7.5 million in the local assistance piece of it right now. But the proposal you're discussing right here is the state operations side purely for the M&O phase of the project.
All right. Thank you very much. LEO?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ginny Bella with the Analyst's Office. We have no concerns with either the proposal in front of you from OSI or DSS. They reflect expected transition from implementation into maintenance and operations.
Thank you very much. Public comment.
Karen Kiesler with the California Association of Public Authorities. As an old journalism student, I heard that bad news is on the front page of the paper, good news is on the last page. And we've read about big technology problems with the DMV, the state controller, the courts. Really what hasn't been mentioned here today is an 18-year process that has been successful in the counties and the public authorities. The providers are getting paid. The team should really be acknowledged for a great job.
So nice to end on a nice positive note. Thank you for that. I do have one last question, or maybe it's just a comment. It will be very interesting to see that, the proposed cost for the information technology tracking of this overtime proposal, because there are a lot of moving parts, and that certainly should be taken into consideration before we spend money doing those sorts of things as opposed to other things that can be done. Thank you all very much. The meeting is adjourned, and thank you for all of the information and all the great work you're doing. Thank you.